Welcome to day 199 of the 300 movie challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of December 2010, which was The Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
You can hear the enthusiasm.
I have feelings, but let's start off with other things before I tell people about my feelings.
It sucked.
Okay, let's look for the kill, won't we?
Okay, here. Prince Caspian wasn't very good.
No.
The problem with Prince Caspian was it was boring.
Yeah.
And it was very long, and they had some issues with, drawing out some portions and, speeding up portions.
Parts that were hilarious.
Well, one part at the end, but yeah. So, it was boring, and it was drawn out.
Yeah.
This was just a mess. What even fucking happened in this movie? Okay, here's the best way I could describe it, and I described this actually pretty early on, and it feels like video game filler.
Yeah.
Where it's
Just a side quest.
Yeah, well, no, not a side quest, but it's more like a long RPG that has, a 50-hour story, right? But the problem is it's one of those that's not very good because they, only wrote, a 30-hour plot. So, to fill in the time, they're like, oh, but before you can actually do the thing, you have to go and, find the 7 lords! Yeah, that's what you gotta do! And then you do the, it's so that's what this feels like. It feels like someone's like, do this for reasons! And, because, okay, I'm thinking immediately comparing this to what I said for Deathly Hallows Part 1. And then I was saying that kind of at the beginning, Harry Potter movies were episodic, kind of, right? In terms of here's the thing, then here's the thing. And so you could say, oh, well, isn't this kind of the same thing? And in concept it is, but the problem is that it literally just dumps you in the story immediately. There is no setup at all. Whereas at least even Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, sure, they didn't need to set up all the characters again, but it gave you time to get familiar with what's going on again, see the changes, and kind of get into the actual issue now. Here it's just, they meet the annoying as fuck, other kid who is, horrible.
Their cousin.
He's disgustingly terrible. And he also sounds like a middle-aged woman. But they meet him, and then, they get sucked into this painting, and then they're on the ship, and, boom, that's it. It's okay?
No setup.
No setup.
Not only that, but in the other movie, it was oh, they were called over because of the horn and everything, right? Susan
makes sense.
And then here, it was they even made it a point of dialogue where it's wait, did you ring your horn? No, not at all. I didn't do anything.
So literally they weren't called, so what was the point of them being there? Why did they get there?
Yep.
Because
I don't know.
If you think about it, in terms of the plot, they actually aren't the ones who save the day.
No.
Right? It's the other fucking kid, right? And I mean, I guess you could say, oh, it was really calling to him, but they happened to be in the room. Whatever. I don't know. Ugh. That kid also just sucks, and again, the fact that at the end of the movie, they basically tell you, oh yeah, Lucy and Edmund are not going to be in the next one. It's just this fucking kid again. So, hooray. And apparently they are starting to finally make the 4th one now, so...
Oh, no.
Yeah. I was just...
At least we're not seeing that one!
No, but literally, this plot is so terribly paced.
Not only that, but during the entire movie, we were, pointing out certain things where it's that's from this movie. That's from that book.
Oh,
we're not... Yeah, I guess, in terms of the fact that this was a film, you could say that maybe they drew some inspirations, drew upon inspirations in quotation marks, from other films, because there was I mean, this was written in the 50s, so I'm sure some of it was source material, but none of us read these books.
So we can't say how much of it was from the book or not and stuff.
Yeah, but a lot of it feels embellished to feel like Pirates of the Caribbean or Lord of the Rings or stuff like that. No, literally the fucking random late star lady, which shows up for 2 minutes and then's never seen again. She looks very much like Galadriel, so it's Okay.
That reminds me of like that one movie called Stardust too, because basically in this movie she fell from a star and everything.
Yeah.
And they talk about At World's End, which should sound very familiar.
Oh, yeah. And then, and speaking of the star, like, okay, so the characters that were like, at least they were like good to okay in the last movie, like, you know, again, like Lucy didn't really do much, but she was okay. Edmund was all right, and Caspian was at least like okay, right, in the last movie. So in this movie, Lucy does like even less, really, and if anything, she gets weirdly obsessed with like wanting to be like her sister, which like when was that ever established? Okay, whatever. Edmund like literally out of nowhere becomes suddenly like drunk on power for like one scene that then never comes up again. And I get the whole point is that scene is like, oh, he's being tempted by the pool, but like there's no basis for it at all. And the whole point of that is supposed to like, it's supposed to, you know, you have something really deep in your mind that it brings out, but here it's like literally comes out of nowhere. And then Caspian is like, again,
useless.
Yeah, he doesn't really do much, but then he's like,
just a cardboard.
He's really horny. Like, it starts off the movie all like still talking about, you know, Susan, but then he like starts like, I feel like he almost kind of hits on Lucy a little bit. And then, like, later he you know, with the, what the fuck?
The star lady.
The star lady, and I feel like I'm missing someone else. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude, come on. So, that, and then, yeah, also the new kid is just really obnoxious. And he's like the Alice syndrome, where it's like, oh, this is totally a dream, when it's like, girl, it's been an hour, come on, you know. So, yeah, that, just like, everyone sucks.
Yeah, it was not fun to sit through.
No. And speaking of Lucy, she has a very unhealthy obsession with Aslan.
Oh my god, yeah. That's kind of weird.
It's like Aslan's her sugar daddy.
Daddy.
Oh god.
And then, okay, we have to mention, so it's not a secret that all of these books have, like, you know, Christian allegories and, like, undertones, overtones, whatever. But I would argue that, like, the last two movies, they weren't, like, that in your face about it.
No.
Like, you could...
We did bring them up, but they weren't, like, smacking you in the face with it.
This was smacking you in the face.
Oh, that's kind of uncanny, but okay, whatever.
This movie, it smacked you in the face. Over and over and over and over again.
I felt like we were tied to like a tree, and the Christianity was like a truck, and it just kept like coming at us and hitting us in the tree.
Like, there's the whole temptation thing is like all throughout the whole thing about, like, you know,
there's a sea serpent. It's a snake. It's a fucking snake.
Yeah.
That have to.
Goes away when you defeat the snake.
Yeah, and then the whole the supper table thing, right? There's that. God. There's the whole parting the waves at the end, and and Aslan literally like
star.
The what?
The star.
Oh yeah, the star. That whole thing. And then Aslan being like, will know me as another name or something, and it's like, oh my god. Jesus, literally, Jesus Christ, fucking God.
Jesus.
Oh, jeez. So, yeah, this is literally, like, the
Is that how the books were? Like, were the first two, like, super, like, not super subtle? Were they more subtle? And then by the third book, it was just like, you know what, we're just like the Bible, except as a children's book. Like, is that what they did? Was it just like, oh yeah, you guys are invested now, so let's just be super overt about the Christianity?
Well, we don't know. We can't say from the book, but
yeah.
No. But why did they do this with the movies?
I don't know. It's just and then
a little bit like they did with the other ones. So I was like kind of thinking about this before like going into this movie, and I was like, okay, it was like, okay, the first movie, like after we watched it again, I don't remember what I said in the original discussion, but as we know, in Prince Caspian, none of us were very satisfied with it, and it was kind of like we were trying to make fun of it as much as we could to pass the time, so like we wouldn't just, low key die watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So then this movie, with all of like the overtones and like, okay, it's okay to be religious on your own terms. I don't like it when people push religion onto other people.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably why I'm like kind of angry right now, because I'm just like, okay, I don't know about the books, as we mentioned, but did they just make a Christian movie like lightly masquerade as a children's movie, or is it just me?
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
The whole thing with like Lucy with the unhealthy obsession with Aslan, I guess, is like you have to embrace your faith and be super religious and stuff, but okay. Not with the religion stuff, with the movies themselves. I was thinking about this like throughout the film, and I was just like, do I actually low-key not like the first movie anymore? Because I feel like with the last two, I'm just like, the world building is really weird.
Yeah.
The characters are really annoying. I kind of felt disillusioned because I was kind of like, did I think the first movie was like good to okay just because like I thought it was good to okay when I was a kid?
I mean, I thought it was decent, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's definitely the best of the three.
Yeah,
It is
easily.
the best. It is definitely the best, but I don't know how I feel right now about it. Just because of like, I guess this very small realization of like, it is kind of weird and it is kind of like a certain way, and I don't I don't outright dislike the first movie, but it's kind of, I'm kind of thinking of it as like, why did I like it now?
Well, it's like, now that you kind of like know what it builds up to, you're like, do I still want to support the beginning of it, kind of?
In a way, because I guess the thing with like the Matrix sequels was that the Matrix sequels were not supposed to exist.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah.
They're cash grabs, so I can be like, okay, they're not canon, whatever. Matrix is by itself, these were a fluke. That's fine. These are part of a series. Like an actual series that is many years old. It's like 50, 60 years old now. So it's kind of like, the beginning was fine, but what it becomes, usually isn't it supposed to be where the beginning is like kind of okay, but then it gets better?
I don't know.
So I have very weird mixed feelings about how I feel about the first movie now because of like seeing these, and I'm not really sure how I feel about like the characters anymore, aside from like Edmund and Lucy, because Lucy's like, okay, she's kind of useless, but Edmund's at least interesting. But Edmund by himself is not enough to make up for like everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do I want to just throw up second and third and the rest of the series and just call the first movie a standalone?
I don't know. I mean, because I was also kind of trying to think like, okay, what was it that was like, why did the first one, like, why was that okay, but this one wasn't, right? Like, what was the difference, right? And so I was thinking about Aslan and like how he was portrayed and like his abilities and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, I honestly can't remember that well, but I think the whole point was that like people didn't. They were about to use his powers, but because they were building the army against the White Witch, right?
Yeah.
So they weren't like hiding the powers or anything. It was just like, yeah, we're preparing and we're about to fight her, right? So it was like, okay, fine, right? And Aslan wasn't like super amazing, omnipotent god. He just like was powerful,
felt like
right?
in the first movie he was kind of more like that war hero that everyone wants on their team.
Yeah.
So
And he actually
Like that's what it is. Yeah, it wasn't like this overplaying of like this one figure as like a messiah character.
yeah, and then so for Prince Caspian, it's pretty bad. Well, we even made fun of it. It was the whole thing like, wait, he's hungry? That was the whole thing, right?
Hungry.
Yeah, but like, we made fun of it then, but did Dawn Treader have literally any reason for like why they couldn't just be like, Aslan, solve all our problems?
Yeah.
Like they literally gave no reason.
The last scene, I brought it up where like the guy was like, "Don't think of anything," and Edmund was like, "I thought of something." It's like, wait a minute, couldn't they have just thought of Aslan and then Aslan appear and stuff?
Yeah, like again, even Prince Caspian's shitty excuse of that he's hungry is better than this, because here they gave no reason for anything of why he couldn't do anything. If anything, in here they made him even more powerful. So there's literally no excuse where they couldn't have just been like, Aslan, save us, and then it's like, boom, there you go. So, and even then, the whole thing about like, oh, this, terrible evil, like, what even was it? Like, we don't even know, even now.
Temptation.
Not only that, but what did that have to do with the 7 swords and stuff?
Yeah,
I don't understand the plot. They were getting the swords for what reason?
Yeah, no, exactly. The plot, not only is it just really, really poorly told because it's all over the fucking place, but in terms of like actually like typing out like a summary, literally what was the point of this? Like at all.
Grab the swords, they put them on the dinner table, and then what? Like
to stop the evil, whatever. But like,
why does that get rid of the evil though?
I don't know. Like again, at least Prince Caspian, they were clear about what the goal was. They were trying to get rid of the evil ruler guy, right?
Yeah.
So it's not very interesting, but it's something. It's a thing that I can understand. So.
Not only that, but it's like, because the original thing in the beginning was like, oh, we're just gonna go rescue like the 7 lords or whatnot, and you're just like, okay, why is this relevant? And then it went from like, no, actually, instead of just the 7 lords, because some of them are dead, you have to collect the 7 swords of the 7 lords. And it's like, okay. And then you keep going, and then it's like, no, you need the 7 lords to like all come together at the supper table so you can defeat the big evil thing and stuff. It's like,
it feels like it just got added on as like the author was writing it or something.
It's like, shouldn't that plot have been in the beginning? And stuff like, we're gonna go get the 7 swords. Like, you didn't even need the lords. You would just need like swords that were like hidden in places, and then you kind of put them together. And you could have just had the sea serpent be the thing that's like keeping all the people away and stuff. And
like, you could just stab it with all 7 swords. It's easy.
Well, no, even if you want to keep the quote unquote essence of the story, you can just kind of reframe it where it's like, from the beginning they're like, oh yeah, we're setting out to like defeat this sea serpent, but like the only way we can do that is if we get these 7 swords. Then like, okay, fine. I don't think it's that great. I think it's kind of cliched, and it's kind of the whole you need the magic thingies to complete the task kind of plot, but it's at least a plot that has substance to it. So this was a mess. This was just a mess. It was. There's really nothing, and I can't think of anything that this movie does better than either of the other two.
No.
Even the effects were like worse.
But not only that, but Lucy and Edmund again are the same age as they were, despite the first movie having them as being older. I guess the reason why the first movie also seemed better is that they ended on like a note where it seemed like it could have been the end.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, they like lived their lives in Narnia and then they came back. Okay, that's fine, whatever. So you could kind of like just dust your hands there and be like, okay, I watched a good movie, it's fine. But with Prince Caspian and then with this movie, it's like, nope, there's more coming.
Why the fuck did they not stay in Narnia? This is the 3rd time they're here, and this is the like 3rd time they're going back.
Because Jesus Lion said so. Are you questioning?
They went back by themselves through the wardrobe and stuff. It wasn't like a portal like appeared out of nowhere or anything.
Yeah, which was fine. If they went back, the first time they went back, fine. They found their way back. That's okay. The second time was kind of weird. With like, okay, let's put back some of the other human people into the human world where they will be safe from minotaurs and other people.
It's really strange.
And then you can also go back home, and then, okay, whatever. This... He was going to, like, take some of them to his quote-unquote country, which I assume is, like, I don't know, maybe heaven or, like, the Holy Land or something. And then after the mouse fucks off, then he opens another portal and is like, okay, Edmund, Lucy, if you go back, you never can come back again. And Lucy's, like, bawling her eyes out, and I'm just like, girl, you can stay. It's very easy.
Like, even in the second movie, they could have stayed. Even in the first movie, if they just never went back to that signpost, they would have just died there.
Yeah. Well, see, the first movie, you could also argue that, like, they didn't know the rules, right? Aslan wasn't there to tell them, you're not gonna come back or whatever, right? They were just like, hey, here's this thing, what happens? And then they're like, oh shit, right? So you could argue that, and if anything, the second movie kind of starts like they're gonna get into the whole thing where, like, they really regret coming back, right? Which could have been a really interesting thing, but they didn't really do anything with it, right? So, but yeah, then for both Caspian and for this, it's like, he literally tells you this is what will happen. So, yeah, just dumb.
And every time you start the beginning of the movie, in the second movie and the third movie, like, dang it, I want to go back to Narnia, and it's like,
well, you could have stayed there.
well, I mean, in the second movie, it makes sense just because of how they got back in the first movie.
Yeah.
But in the third movie, it makes absolutely no sense.
No. Because he even said to Lucy and Edmund, you can come back, which means you can stay.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you?
Yeah.
And now they can never come back ever again.
Yep. So, this was bad.
Yeah. Don't ever watch past the first movie. Just don't.
Well, is it time to go over 2010?
Oh yeah, we have to do that.
Really memorable to say about 2010, other than like Toy Story.
Well, okay, so actually, Maya and I were talking about this a little bit ago, but we both agreed that it seemed like 2009 took forever to get through, but then 2010 was over with really quickly.
Yep.
And we don't know why.
It felt.
I feel like 2010 feels like such. For me, 2010 felt like it lasted forever.
Oh,
Where I
really?
don't even remember all the things, yeah.
Huh.
Like, I don't even remember... Shutter Island feels like forever ago for me now.
I don't know, I feel like I saw it recently, I don't know. But
I think other than, like... I even forgot we watched Shrek Forever in this year, too.
Forever after. Forever ago.
I guess we'll start from the beginning first, though.
yeah. Book of Eli was at least it was at least interesting.
Weird.
It was
is a good way to put
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I overall liked it all right, but yeah, it was definitely strange. So
Yeah.
that's something. Shutter Island was also kind of strange, to be fair.
Yeah.
And the thing with Shutter Island was that, like, I think I actually would have liked it, like, a pretty decent amount, but then we, like, figured out, like, some of the like, big plot holes, and then it's like, oh, crap.
You mean why he was the dangerous one and his wife wasn't?
Well, that, and then also there was some other things that we talked about. I don't remember exactly about how, like, you know.
That was the main thing, because I was like, she killed their kids.
Yeah.
He just killed
Why
her.
was he in the mental institution? And then it was like the boat. Why was he on a boat?
Well, no, it was
Yeah.
that, but then it was also, like, something. Oh, the woman that wrote, like, Run on the paper. It's like, wait, how does that fit into anything, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was just problems with the plot where it's like, oh, man, I feel like I would have actually liked this if there just wasn't some dumb problems with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I still think overall it was positive, but it was much more mixed than I originally thought it was going to be, so.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had fucking...
Alice was trash.
yeah.
Speaking of like characters that kept believing it was a dream.
Oh, God.
Stupid woman in Underland.
Yeah, this Alice in Wonderland is a terrible movie. And the fact that there are, like, a not incredibly tiny percent of people who like it makes me upset. Ugh.
Yeah.
And then Clash of the Titans, I think, wins the biggest missed opportunity award.
Yeah.
No Titans clashing.
Nope.
It
No.
was, yeah, so...
There was only one clash of one Titan.
And it was over with in a really...
Against another Titan.
It was really anticlimactic too.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And we have a string of like 3 good movies.
Yeah, well, Shrek Forever After was like kind of strange, but like at least kind of like in a good-ish way.
Yeah.
A good kind of strange, and then we had Toy Story 3,
which is overall good, though we had so few issues with it.
Yeah.
Marvel's MVP,
and then Inception we all like.
Yep.
So that's good. Expendables was just a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
couldn't tell if it was a parody or if it wasn't a parody.
See, I can't. I like literally like don't remember Expendables. Like, what even happened in that movie?
It was just a bunch of 90s action stars reliving their glory days, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. And then there was Prince Caspian, which
we talked about.
we already kind of talked about a lot. So
Fun time.
Social Network is well made.
A mixed bag among us.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could all agree that, like, objectively, it's a well-made movie.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just, do you like watching it?
Yes.
Basically.
You jive.
It's kind of like, it's either a movie. No one can argue the fact that it's not a well-made movie. It's just a matter of, is it your taste or is it not your taste? Kind of.
Which is totally fair thing to argue about. So you know.
Yeah.
It's like vanilla and chocolate ice cream.
Yeah.
And then Deathly Hallows 1 was alright.
Sad.
Yeah. It was
kind of a downer.
Yeah. But it was
Ron, why?
Oh my god.
Yeah. He's a little bitch in that movie.
Yep.
And then there was what we just saw, which I don't want to talk
Face
about
palm
anymore.
the movie.
Yeah. You know, I think it is the worst movie of the year.
Yeah.
It and Alice in Wonderland are very close.
Yeah.
And then probably after that, like
Expendables, just because it's so like expendable.
Yeah, probably the next layer in terms of like bad would be like Expendables, Prince Caspian, and Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
And then like decent stuff with like Book of Eli, Shutter Island, again, Social Network, depending on how you view it.
Yeah.
It going into like pretty good with like Deathly Hallows, Shrek Forever After, and then good with Toy Story 3 and Inception.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I'm kind of trying to think like how would I rate the year as a whole, and I'm really not that sure.
It's such a even mix because it's like 2x2 basically.
Yeah, like because I'm thinking like, wow, Dawn Treader was bad, but I'm like, you know, if Dawn Treader is the worst thing of the year, that's really not that bad.
No.
Yeah,
you know,
it was just kind of annoying.
Yeah,
That's about it.
But at the same time, well, there wasn't that much though that was like really good. Like Inception, I would say was really good, and Toy Story 3 was good. But then like there's a pretty big gap after those two.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I don't know how I would think about this overall. I mean, it's definitely not like a terrible year, but it's definitely not a great year either. So, but better than 2009, probably overall, just because 2009 had the more bad ones.
You mean Fast and Furious?
Well, yeah, like He's Just Not That Into You, Monsters vs. Aliens, Fast and Furious, Transformers 2, Clyde with a Chance of Meatballs, I'd argue, is kind of close to that. You know what I mean? Like, they had all those which were not very good, and this is kind of more pretty even between, you know, a third of it being not good, a third of it being just okay, and a third of it being good to, you know, really good or whatever. So, I guess middle of the road kind of year? Maybe a little bit better?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, well, next is 2011, and actually, speaking of next is movie number 200.
It kind of annoys me how it's like the next year and couldn't have been like the end of this year.
Yeah, well, that's because since like the 94 was like we had 7, right? So that means at the end of every year is an odd number. So,
dang it,
is kind of annoying, but
it's okay.
And apparently Tara has seen this movie, and she's very excited to watch it again. So we'll see how that works.
Excited to see this movie again.
I don't even. I mean, I think I can tell what it is, but I don't know what. We'll find out. So here's to that.
Okay, bye.
Oh boy.